Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at the first 4 issues of Bryan Talbot's Heart of Empire, subtitled The Legacy of Luther Arkwright. This is obviously the sequel to The Adventures of Luther Arkwright, which we looked at in the past 2 episodes. And this was about maybe 3 to 4 or 5 years, I believe. Let me check. Oh, I'm sorry. This is like 10 years later. He came back to the world of Luther Arkwright to write and illustrate this series. And very different than the first one, though it definitely continues a lot of the themes and the characters from the first 9 issues there. Let's crack these open. We can already tell that the art's different. It's kind of the art style he developed, Bryan Talbot developed during his A Tale of One Bad Rat. Kind of a cleaner, stripped down style, more open, a lot less lines, a lot less illustrative. It's great art, but I kind of miss the old art. I thought it was just so perfect for that world. A lot of these, there's some painterly stuff in here, and that's due to new colorist Angus McKay, who colors all these. They really seem to be playing up the steampunk aspect in this, at least in the interstitial material or the opening extra material. Like this about the author thing. It's basically pretending that Bryan Talbot grew up in this alternate reality. And it's quite entertaining, actually. His whole history in this world, as if Bryan Talbot was a comic book artist of this world. Of course, it's called different. It's a pictorial illustrator or something like that. So we start off, we're in Rome, and it says 7 days to Cataclysm. You can already tell how different the art is. This is beautiful, though. Really nice stuff, but look how, just open that art is compared to, if this was the first series, there'd probably be so many lines, shading these fruits and stuff. The city's still pretty damn ornate, though. And we see this this priest official, some kind of monk. And he's in this apartment. He's listening to Verdi. And he's staring at these religious paintings. He seems to have a look of awe on his face. But we find out that it's more of a look of awe, because we find out he's getting a blowjob from a nun. He erases her memory of it. Apparently he has this power. So he's much more than your average Catholic friar or whatever he is. His name's Father Barberini. And the nun gives him a message, and it's the Pope. The Pope wants to talk to him. We see him walking through the Vatican. Really nice, but look how different this art is. This robe is just like barely any shading lines or anything. And also the colors definitely gives it a different flavor. I kind of like the colors. Sometimes Angus McKay can go a little over the top, but I think they're good here. So apparently we find out just from seeing these other bishops and talking about Barberini, is he is just an outlier in the Catholic Church. Apparently he smells really bad, and he kind of talks like he's a peasant, like a dumb peasant, but he has the Pope's ear, and he's very powerful in the Catholic Church in his own way. So he goes in to see the Pope in his bedchambers. Now, this coloring I thought was kind of interesting. I thought, I don't know, this is weird. I guess the candlelight in this dark room. Apparently, in the afterword, this is a total mistake. They apologize for it. They say it'll be corrected in the collected edition. So I guess it wasn't supposed to look like this at all. Though I didn't really notice it. I didn't look at this and say, God, what the hell's going on? I thought it kind of worked. We see the Pope is very old. He's very aged and infirm. And he has a mission for Barberini. He wants him to go to England and tell the Queen that she must kiss the ring of the Pope, which he's going to give to Barberini. If she doesn't basically bow down before Rome, she's to be killed. At this point in this war, alternate reality, England is like the biggest power in the world. They have a true empire. The Vatican only exists as a city-state by England's decree, by their largesse. So it's kind of bold of the Pope to be like, yeah, I'm going to assert my dominance here. Because he's not really dominant at all, the Pope. Man, the way he draws this Pope looks like a zombie. So Barberini leaves. He goes to a restaurant to get some pasta. These dogs are fighting. His wine knocks over. He tips over his wine and he looks into his plate of pasta and he sees this design. This is going to be important. Now we have the title page. God, look at that deep blue. That is gorgeous. Angus McKay does some pretty good colors here and there with his computer coloring. So like I said, they're playing up the steampunky angle. Instead of saying computer colorist, it says Babbage Engine Color Weaving by Professor Angus McKee, Mistress of Calligraphy Ellie DeVille. And even the heads of Dark Horse are like Mr. Randall Stradley, Mr. Michael Richardson. Everything is like Victorian. So now we cut away to London, 5 days to Cataclysm. And we see the Princess Victoria. Last series, we saw her being born at the Battle of London. She's looking at the statue of Luther Arkwright in memoriam. Apparently, Luther's dead. She's walking through Hyde Park and she sees this guy handing out pamphlets. And he's basically a pro-democracy guy. He's part of the levelers, the new levelers. And they basically want to get rid of monarchy, which is very minority opinion in this world. And instead of like calling the cops and basically saying this guy's seditious, she actually has a little debate with him. And she's a very interesting character, Victoria. She's just very highfalutin and aristocratic. And she's pretty sure of her beliefs. She's intelligent, but she also believes that, monarchy is great. And this guy's just an idiot for even daring to espouse that democracy could work. She calls it mob rule. Here we see the Crystal Palace. And so this Democrat guy, this leveler, he, I think his name is Barlow. He says, oh my God, you look just like this guy, Gabriel Shelley. You could be his twin sister. He says he's going to be addressing our meeting, a public meeting in 3 days, talking about this democracy movement. You should check it out for yourself. And she takes the address. He writes down the address and the name. We realize that this leveler guy didn't even know that was the princess he was talking to. This guy has to inform him. And she looks up in the sky and she sees this massive sky ship. And who should be on the sky ship but a much older Hiram Kowalski. And he now has basically an assistant. She's almost like an apprentice reporter who is going to learn from him by observing him. Her name's Angela. And she seems very intelligent, kind of funny. And Hiram's kind of, if you guys remember, Hiram became a famous reporter for writing about that Battle of London, where the monarchy was restored. And he's never really had any reportage of notes since then. So he's going back to England, kind of like wants to relive his glory days, but also it's almost like a vacation for him. He doesn't want to do anything too crazy, just kind of wants to relax and bask in his former glory. We see the differences in London now, because the monarchy is basically draining the resources from the rest of the world, as empires will do. And so London is just the most glorious city in the world. Just crazy architecture and just opulence unleashed. So now we're in the Imperial Palace, and we meet this artist guy. He's like the court artist. He's also the head of the Royal Academy. And he's chasing after Victoria, saying, "Oh, you have to sit for me so I can paint you. When are you going to sit for me?" And everyone's pestering her, and she's got this horrible headache, and she even pukes in front of everybody. And we look up and we see the painting that is partially on in the cover. This was available as a giant print in real life. It's kind of a good painting. Basically, it's the Battle of London. And we see Diana Spencer. And I guess she was there. I didn't realize that Princess Diana was in the first series as a character. Apparently there was a little controversy about this comic showing Princess Di. She died like 3 months after this comic came out. So people were extra sensitive. People thought it was in bad taste that he had Diane as a character, even though when he made this, she wasn't dead. So we see all the main characters of the Battle of London. So she asks about John Dee. John Dee was the man who delivered her and her twin brother back at the Battle of London. He has basically been exiled. It seems like a lot of people have been exiled. It seems like Queen Anne has definitely changed. We haven't seen her yet, but just from everyone talking about all the people she's exiled and banished, she's not such a good ruler anymore. Turns out John Dee is hiding in the castle. He's been hiding there for decades. Some like little cupboard somewhere. And he's got all of his potions. His dialogue is wonderful. Him talking about all of his old-timey medicine stuff. Talking about ill humors. And but he seems like he knows everything. Even stuff that's not real and dumb. You know. He knows every kind of leech to bleed you. But he's the only one who can make a potion that cures her headaches. So she always goes to John Dee's, and he makes her this very, natural natural medicine. It's the only thing that seems to cure her horrible migraines. She tells him about the whole thing about how this guy might be her twin brother. Maybe he's alive. This guy who looks just like her. And John Dee says, I was there when your brother was killed. I saw him killed in front of my eyes. And we see a flashback here. And these, I guess, Puritan terrorists broke into the Queen's chamber. And here's her twin brother getting his head blown off. And this is crazy. Queen Anne single-handedly, with her bare hands, killed these Puritan terrorists. And it seems like that set Anne on a bad path. Basically, she blamed John Dee for not being able to save her son. And that's when she banished him. Diana, who was very attached to the children, she was like their nanny, she goes insane. And they have to put her in a mental institution. So John Dee's kind of filling her in on stuff. And John Dee's telling her about her father, Luther. Because she doesn't really know much about him. She really can't talk to her mother. They're pretty estranged. He tells her how your father was born under a certain alignment of planets, which was the same alignment of planets that Jesus Christ was born under. And, he's talking about numerology and just talking about all kinds of arcane sciences. She really doesn't buy it. She's just like, you're a nut. I just came here for my medicine. You're crazy. I love, though he does tell her, he asks her about her condition. She says the only thing that alleviates it sometimes is masturbating. And so he gives her this is basically a dildo. It's a carved ivory tantric stimulator with a cunning clockwork mechanism within. And she leaves finally. And when Dee turns around, he realizes that she took the dildo. And so John Dee's a total, alchemist. He not only believes in, modern sciences, but he's still sacrificing cats for divination. He's basically just like some old crazy sorcerer. And when he cuts out the innards of this cat, look at the shape it makes. So once again, we see that shape. Yeah, even though Bryan Talbot's not nearly as illustrative in this, I just really like his art. I mean, these faces are great. And so now we see Baroni arriving in London. And he gets a psychic emanation. There is evil here. We have our letter pages here. Man, what heavy hitter letter pages. Mike Moorcock writes in, Alan Moore, Neil Gaiman, Rick Veitch, Garth Ennis. They all write in just to talk about the first issue. Here we see a reprint of that Dave Gibbons drawing of Luther Arkwright. That was in the original series. We see these fake Victorian ads. I'm sorry, they're not. I don't think they are fake, actually. They're real Victorian ads. And here's a reprint of that Grant Morrison illustration from the first series. And here we see a self-portrait of Bryan Talbot. But of course, it's pretending that he lives in this world. It's painted by Jason Hurst, the painter that we saw earlier. I kind of like this, how there's a Robbie the Robot painting in the background. I guess Robbie the Robot spans dimensions. There's a Mobius book on his counter. Continuation of his fake biography. And another ad. This seems very sacrilegious. The two infallible powers, the Pope and Bovril. Some product, having some drink. Now we have number 2. Another nice cover. I really like this format. All these inset panels. Title page. And we're back in London. And, I'm sorry, this isn't London. This is 00 reality London. So, we see Rose Wilde of this dimension. And Carl, her old lover. I guess they haven't seen each other in a while. They embrace when they see each other. So I guess they still have some affection. And they're at the Wotan complex. Wotan is like the computer that runs their operations. We're back in London for the Queen Anne's London. And Hiram's kind of giving whatever her name is a little tour. I forgot her name already. And we see that London's kind of decadent. There's extreme factions between the wealthy and the poor. A huge gap. Lots of fads. He mentions one fad as truly decadent: vegetarianism. When people are starving all over the world, how dare you be picky about what you eat? It's just so decadent. And they turn a corner and they see a bunch of slaves heading to market. And this guy's ringing a bell like, at 1 o'clock, we're having a sale for these slaves. And of course, Angela is horrified because I guess in the United Colonies of America, they don't have slavery. America's abolished slavery. England still has slavery in this world. And she's just like, And Hiram tells her, he's like, you can't get too emotional. Emotion is a luxury in this profession. You got to be detached and objective. They continue to walk through. We see all these bizarre buses and trolleys and I would cut away to Buckingham Palace. And we meet this guy Strickland. And I don't know why, but he's just this giant. I don't know if they explained this in the first one. I think they were giants in the first one. I don't know how they got to be that way. But this guy, he's basically talking to his other, like, noble brethren. And he's planning a coup. And not necessarily, he's not going to, like, kill Queen Anne. But he basically wants to turn Queen Anne into a titular figurehead. Just like England is now. Queen Anne has absolute power. There's no parliament. He wants to change that. Kind of have a bloodless coup. Hiram's there with Angela. We also see this guy who's in charge of, he's like basically the spy master general. And it's Colonel Eugene Cray. And the Cray brothers, the famous criminals in English history. I think they were active in like the 50s and 60s. I think the 60s, actually. And so, of course, he'd be a spy master, a perfect spy master with his, amoral ways. And basically, everyone's here to, the Queen is going to give a speech. It's a big thing. There's that annoying artist guy. He's still pestering Victoria. It turns out, we find out that he's got a crush on her. And she just totally insults him right to his face. Just says, you disgust me, basically. It's ridiculous. And as she's walking away, he's like, you fucking bitch. So they announce the Queen with all this fanfare. And this is what Queen Anne has become. This insane, ageless monstrosity. I guess she does this for shock and awe effect. She herself looks like a giant. And she's basically just giving a speech about how the Empire is doing well. And I guess they have just conquered Japan. And she's invited the Japanese leaders to be gracious, I guess. And poor Victoria pukes again. When the Queen has this little midget assistant, when he looks down at the vomit, it makes that symbol again. We see all the ladies of the court. I guess this is the fashion at the time. And they're all making fun of Victoria because she's scrawny. I guess the style is to be pleasantly plump in the future. Or, I'm sorry, in this reality. And so the Queen kind of blows off Barberini and says, maybe I'll have time for you tomorrow for a meeting. He looks very angry. He's not used to hearing no. So I guess in this world, all that's left to fight England are the communards in Russia. You remember Octobriana led a communist revolution in Russia, and then the United Colonies of America. And pretty much England's taken over the rest of the world. We see Victoria sees all of these like foreign dignitaries playing croquet, archery. There's dodos that are still alive in this world. And it turns out these people are all like basically hostages. So like when England takes over a country, they like basically have the royal family as their guest. And, you know, as hostages. So if the home country tries to do anything, rise up against England, they've got their children there. Kind of a weird practice. We also find out more about Victoria's character. Even though it seems like she's kind of a protagonist, she's not a good person. She calls them inferior races, all these people. So she's not good. This is interesting. So the speech is over. Queen Anne goes in the back, and we see her courtesans, or not courtesans, I'm sorry, her assistants, and they undo all of this craziness. So it's this giant outfit she's on with these crazy, silly heels. That's how she looks so gargantuan. She's got this mask on her face. So this is why she seems ageless. Meanwhile, that giant guy, I already forgot his name, sorry. He is ushered into the Queen's presence. And he sees the Queen as she really is. And she looks like a total mummy. She totally knows about his plan. And she says, you know you're not going to leave this room alive, right? And she crawls up on top of this guy, and she sucks his life force out of his body, and we see her replenished. And we got more letter pages. We got Jeff Smith from Bone does a drawing, and Ian Gibson of Halo Jones fame does a little drawing. It's kind of nice. And a nice pinup by Bryan Talbot. And here's a parody ad. Beautifully done. I assume this is Bryan Talbot. Maybe Angus McKay's helping out. I don't know. Number 3. Another sharp cover. Title page. And we're back in London. 3 days to Cataclysm. So Hiram is still leading Angela around, telling her all about England. They see that leveler again. Oh, I'm sorry, not again. They meet this leveler. And he tells them about this whole leveler movement, you know. Hiram kind of thinks he's a pinhead. But when he says that the princess will be at this meeting tomorrow to meet Gabriel Shelley, he's like, ooh, that's a news story. Unfortunately, it's in Alsatia, which is kind of like the new maze of London. It's the cops don't even go in there. Alsatia is a very no zone. It's very frightening. Hiram didn't want to go at all, but now the story, you know, he's a newsman. He can't help but be curious. So it looks like they're going to be going to Alsatia to go to this meeting. Now we see Victoria, Princess Victoria, back with John Dee. And once again, we got these colors, which now I don't know if he wants it to be this golden. Is this another mistake? I don't know. So she's telling John Dee how she's going to go to this meeting. And John Dee's warning her. He says, you shouldn't go to Alsatia. That place is just full of cutthroats. This is some nice language here. Kind of old-timey language. To be cheek by jowl with scabby hempen homespuns, crab-infested slatterns, cut purses, cutthroats, and mumpers. That's some very colorful language. It's kind of weird how Bryan Talbot is a really fine writer, and he's done so little. I mean, he has recently, his graphic novels, but all those years where he was just a penciler at DC, Vertigo, and, techno comics, it's kind of a shame. He's better than most writers, I think, out there. I mean, this Luther Arkwright stuff is amazingly well written. So John Dee realizes, he figures that, he's talking about orgone energy. And, that's the fact that she feels better whenever she masturbates. He realizes that when you masturbate, it puts up a shield of orgone energy. That's why you feel better. But from studying your stool sample and everything else, you're being attacked psychically. I don't know by who, but that's why you're in pain. Someone's attacking you mentally. A sustained psychic assault, he says. So now we see Cray, the head of the Secret Service, and he's getting his painting done by that foppish guy. And I liked the difference between the painting and his reality. So they know, basically the levelers, after their meeting, I think a day or two later, they're going to have a big rally. And Cray is planning to crush it mercilessly. He's also part of this rebellion thing. This is going to be the new flag of England. The post-royalist England. After he thinks that Anne's going to cede some of her power. Now we're back to the 0-0 reality, Valhalla Nova. And something's happened with Wotan. Wotan has basically gotten more sentient and insists on, having this representation of himself, like a physical manifestation. And everyone's kind of annoyed by it. But he's like, what are you going to do? I'm in charge of you guys. And when they look at the dimension that, that Queen Anne rules, they see the same shape. It's an interference vortex, they call it. And Wotan predicts that within 3 days, there'll be a huge catastrophe. This is just a portent of it. Back with Princess Victoria, we see her use that tantric device. And she looks out her window, and she sees prisoners being led to the goals. And she has a flashback to her brother before he died. And they're in the museum. They see their Uncle Harry. Remember Harry Fairfax, the revolutionary? He is also banned from the government. Queen Anne got pissed at him for farting too much. And they look at Rose Wild as Britannia. But it turns out this is all just a dream, nightmare. She sees Henry all desiccated. That's amazing drawing there. This looks like old Bryan Talbot. So we get this crazy dream sequence. The storytelling's got all nutty. She sees her father, Luther Arkwright, and then she sees massive devastation, the cataclysm. So she wasn't really dreaming. It was just like a waking hallucination. She hasn't fallen asleep, but all of a sudden her brain was attacked with that vision. A migraine blackout, she calls it, because she barely remembers it. Now we see Queen Anne. She's torturing the conspirators who were with that giant guy. She's not going to kill him. She's just going to torture him as a lesson. So finally, she's going to meet Bear Baroni. And she is just like, does not want anything to do with this. She's like, I'm not going to kiss that ring. The Vatican's lucky that they get to exist. We allow them to exist. So he's about to pull out his crucifix knife and kill her right then and there. But then all these generals come into the room. So he realizes he's going to have to wait. He's very angry. And they usher Barbaroni out very kind of coldly, give him the bum's rush. Of course, he's very insulted. So now her staff are having a meeting with her, telling her what's up. And I like this. There's a satire paper, a political satire paper called The Savoy Comic Cuts. And we see political cartoons. And it's this very unflattering one of her, empire, and India, Africa. She's basically killing her young. And she's furious. So Queen Anne is a total, autocrat. She will broach not even a little mild criticism like that. She's not a good ruler. We see Victoria goes to visit the statue of Luther. And she's basically yelling at it. And she says, I hate you. Basically, for leaving her. And the statue blows up. So it looks like she might have inherited some of her father's powers. So now we're back with Hiram and Angela. And they seem to be getting a little close. It's becoming something a little bit more than a professional relationship. And this one guy, they're in a restaurant. And there's a guy from Texas there. He says, hey, is that an American voice? Music to my ears. I haven't talked to an American in so long. I've missed it. I'm getting homesick. And he says, you know what I really like about this place? The way they treat their N-words. And Hiram pops him. And Angela says, don't get involved, eh? Yeah, sure. So they're definitely getting closer, those two. So now we cut back to the princess. And she's visiting this abandoned place. Well, it's seemingly abandoned. And it turns out this is where Harry, what's-his-face lives. God damn it, I keep forgetting his name. The hero of the revolution. And here he is. And he's still just a besotted old, depraved loony. But now he's much older and much more infirm. Once again, I think, is this a fuck-up with the coloring? I think it's kind of interesting because it's firelit. It's by a fireplace, the lighting. But after seeing that last page, this might be another glitch. I don't know. So she wants information, obviously, about her father. So she's asking Harry all these questions. Here's some more of that, rich Victorian language. He's listing off his maladies. I've got porphyria and scrofula, dropsy, sciatica, and lumbago, something terrible. All sorts of poxies and agues, dyspepsia, putrid gums, and chronic constipation. In 5 months, I haven't broken wind once. They talk about how, I wasn't kidding earlier, he literally was dismissed from the court because once he farted in front of the queen one too many times, and she was now she's so pompous, she can't have that. I guess Princess Diana was King Charles's consort. King Charles, we saw, he was killed in the last issue. That's Queen Anne's brother. When Harry spits, it makes the shape of that spiral. So he's telling her stories about her father, about Luther. And she asks him about Gabriel Shelley, the anarchist. And that's where we end off here. On the letter page, we have a beautiful illustration by Glenn Fabry and a really nice one from Hunt Emerson. And some more of those ads and more of this very old-timey language. This is a play called The Adventures of Harry Fairfax or The Wind of Change. And it features a song by Bernard Taupin and Reg Dwight. Peter Cushing's in it. Jack Nicholson plays Harry Fairfax. I love this kind of alternate reality stuff. I'm such a sucker for it. And here's number 4. So we're at a convent. Barberini shows up. They're all pretty much in awe of him. Like, everyone knows about Barberini. And they're like, what can we do to help you? And so he says that the queen is excommunicated. And he plans to kill her. The Mother Superior doesn't like this, so he mind wipes her. We see she has no eyeballs here. Now we see Princess Victoria get on her own private tube, her own private train, underground train. And she comes out in Alsatia. And as you can see, it's a very bad part of town. There's lots of ruffians and no goodniks. And here we meet this guy, this mysterious anarchist. And he's talking about freedom and fair society. And we see these Puritan skinheads. They come into the hall and they try to assassinate him. He seems to have pretty amazing powers. He grabs the knives out of thin air. And he kills the guys. Well, a lot of them. Angela seems to know some martial arts. She takes out one of the guards. And then Victoria herself takes out the last one who's about to throw a grenade. So, seems like everyone's pretty formidable in this world. We see Queen Anne all by herself, drinking absinthe, melancholy, looking at a portrait of Luther Arkwright, and she still obviously loves him. She goes to her bedchambers, and these poor Irish guardsmen at the castle, they have to take turns satisfying her lustful urges. So now after the speech, everyone's hanging out at a pub, and Victoria's getting to meet Gabriel. He has a girlfriend. Gabriel has a girlfriend named Ophelia here. She was the one standing next to him on the podium, or sitting next to him. So, of course, Victoria's grilling him. She's just like, maybe this is my brother. Somehow he escaped, Somehow he wasn't killed. Because he looks just like her. he seems to have these kind of powers. It's so hard to believe this is the same artist from that first series. It's so different. I mean, you can tell it's Bryan Talbot by the faces, but as they continue to talk, they find out they have all these similarities. Gabriel suffers from horrible migraines. And they kind of do this thing where he puts his hands on her temples. And all of a sudden, there's this like sexual energy in the air. Even Hiram feels it. And it looks like Angela definitely feels it. And she grabs his hand. But Gabriel seems overwhelmed. He's just like, we live nearby. Why don't you come by? Like he just can't even wait to get her back to the house, to his apartment. Now back at Valhalla Nova, we see, the smarty pants hero guys. They're trying to figure out what to do. It turns out there's more and more Homo novus being born. Luther was the first one, the new species of human. It seems more and more being born. That's what Wotan is telling them. And now we cut back to that reality. And we're in his apartment, Gabriel's apartment, and Ophelia's apartment. He gives her a little medicine for her migraines, what he takes. And they all start getting down. And also Hiram and Angela start getting down. We still see Queen Anne. So this is harkening back to the first series, that kind of non-linear storytelling. We're just seeing, it's like a Nicholas Roeg movie or something, some 70s director, just, jumping around between all this coupling in different places. It's almost like abstract. It's like Charles Burns. You don't even know what some of these things are. Is that the bed sheets or is that a labia? I don't know. Faces in Ecstasy. And that's where we end it. And here's letter pages, more of those ads. We have a drawing by Newton Jr. I'm not familiar with him. And Chantel Heskovich. I think these are just fan artists, And there we go. And we have another one of these like kind of old-timey ads. So that's it, guys, for the first 4 issues of Heart of Empire. I believe tomorrow I should probably have up the second half, number 5 through 9, and we'll finish up this Luther Arkwright 4-part series. Even though there is apparently a third Luther Arkwright graphic novel that just came out, I think, last year or in the past 2 years. So I'll have to get that. But for now, I think these 2 miniseries, for the longest time, this was the oeuvre of Luther Arkwright. So, but maybe, one day, hopefully I'll get that other more current graphic novel and we'll look at that too. But not soon. So hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and I hope to see you next time here at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.